Hello, and welcome to the RWBY animation panel. Not to be confused with the RWBY Chibi animation panel. This is just normal RWBY. It's also not just animation. We've got a bunch of people here. So why don't we start down? Dang it, start with an animator. Let's start down there and introduce you guys. Use a microphone.
Oh, right. I wanted to say my name twice. I'm Harley Dwortz. I'm an animator for RWBY. Yeah, that's me.
Hi, I'm Cesar Altagracia, and I'm a 3D modeler for RWBY.
Hi, I'm Connor Pickens, and I'm an editor on RWBY.
I'm Joe McDonald. I'm the lead for the storyboard, layout, and camera departments.
I'm Joel Mann. I'm one of the lead animators.
How did you get your own microphone? Is that just you? Did you bring that with you? I'm Austin Hardwicke. I'm an animator on RWBY as well.
And ask your questions.
Dustin Matthews, the other lead animator on RWBY.
Kerry. It doesn't matter. It's fine. Nobody cares. So Harley, I heard you have a schedule, and I'm gonna go out of my way to just destroy your schedule, and we're just gonna have fun, and we're gonna play videos and stuff. Yeah. So you guys brought some videos to talk about, and then we also just wanted to do a ton of Q&A and try and have time for that. So I'm just here. What do you guys want me to play? This is y'all's panel. I'm just kind of here.
Let's start with Joe's stuff. He's kind of at the beginning of the pipe, so let's let him show off some stuff first.
Do you want to talk about this? This is the layout stuff, the RWBY 3 one.
Yeah, it's just some of the early storyboard stuff that we did for some of the fight sequences. I think we have the Juniper fight.
This is episode 2, yeah.
Yeah, showing some of the storyboards and what it actually came out looking like at the end of the pipe. But the initial starting stage is the script storyboard meetings that we'll sit in with Miles and Kerry, and they'll walk us through like shot for shot, line for line. We'll do quick little thumbnail sketches of everything, and then we'll kind of bring it back and do finished, more polished storyboards. Kind of figure out our camera angles and things like that. They'll build an animatic based on the storyboards. Then the animators take the animatics, go into motion capture, or if they're going to keyframe, whatever they're going to keyframe. Then the layout department sets up the shots with the characters and the sets and the props, and then they hand that off to the animators to make it look pretty.
And pretty it looks. That's one little clip.
And then the next one is Team Sea Monkey.
Yeah.
So again, we just
I know you're afraid of water, but you don't. There, I helped. Are you happy now? Also, I am not afraid of water, and I have no idea what you are talking about. Neptune! Okay, fine. Just get out of the water.
So, how many storyboard revisions do you usually use? So,
sorry.
So is this like the first pass, like the animatics we're looking at, is it the first pass that you've done, or is this the third, fourth, fifth?
This is probably about the third or fourth pass of things. So
He's afraid of microphones.
like I said, the initial pass when we sit down with the director in the script meetings. I got this one right here. Very, very rough thumbnail sketches and just very much scribble drawings. We kind of then go into Toon Boom where we have our storyboard software, and we'll clean it all up and make it look as pretty as we can with the time we have. Everyone that's working on the boards is like, oh, but just hang a little bit longer. We want to just polish it as much as we can. And it's like, no, we got to get it off. We got to get it out to the editing department so they can build the animatic, and then everything kind of just builds from there.
Yeah, and even then, Connor, you can probably talk about this too. But you guys, we go through a couple rounds with you guys, Joe, and then we give it to Connor and the editing team. They put it together, and then we go through like another round after that. Now that we've cut it together, it's like, oh, this cut isn't working as well, or oh man, we really need a wide shot here now. Do you want to talk about kind of like the animatic building process?
Yeah. So the point of the animatic is just to make it really clearly, obvious to anybody who watches it, like what exactly is happening in the scene. So usually it's just like if something isn't quite reading, or if it's like we just have one board for like 30 seconds of dialogue or something, we might be like, hey, maybe we should get like 2 over-the-shoulder versions of this, and then we'll play around with that a little bit. But I don't feel like that happens too much. I feel like storyboard is usually pretty on it as far as
Now that the team is a lot of storyboard artists. Before it was just like myself trying to work as quickly as I could. But now like we've grown the team. So like Rachel, who's here, does storyboards with us. Kate has done storyboards with us. Yun Hao, is he not here? He is amazing to watch him work because he can whip out like 50, 60 panels a day. And he'll sit and he'll make little sound effects while he's drawing.
Yeah. It's cool when you work with Unhouse boards because like the keyframes are pretty much already there for you. So it's just like fill in the blanks. So good.
Yeah, I still remember, and we'll talk about this in a little bit. But when we were doing the RWBY 4 trailer, yeah, he seriously, I think like he came in over the weekend one time to do it, and he ended up doing like 50 boards a day for like 3 days straight. It was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone went to the layout panel yesterday, but he presented the fight in the RWBY trailer, and he was.
Sometimes you have to go to him and because he draws so much crazy stuff and be like, what the fuck? What the fuck am I supposed to do here? And actually, I can't even do that in 3D. What is this?
Keyframes, Dustin. Keyframes.
Austin, you want to say something?
I can't even remember what it was.
Okay.
But I mean, like you do layout, but you also do final layout. So I mean, of all people, you really touch the scenes the most.
Our department is the best because we get to see it. We get to see it from the beginning to the very end.
Lay down the law.
That's right. But I know, like we get to see it from that very early stage, from the scripts to the initial sketches, and then when we give it to the animators to do the animation, it's like it comes back to us to do the final camera. And
all
then
fucked
hand it
up.
off.
Yeah, they get it back and they go.
Fucking animators.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and also too, a big part of y'all's job too is when you get the final cameras, doing the final cameras, but also, unfortunately, we don't have anybody from the like rendering and comp team right now. But you guys also clean up the files so that they render easier. Because a lot of times, things happen in animation, and sometimes things are just kind of duct taped together. And it looks great. Like the rendering is like the playbox looks great, and then you open a file, and it's just like, what happened? How did we get here? We're not calling out Austin, but we're kind of calling out Austin right now.
That's what's going down now. Is that what's going down?
You knew who we were talking about.
You So then after, sorry, the mic is actually mainly for the people that are watching on Twitch. Hello. So then after storyboards, layout, before it goes to final layout, we have the actual animation phase. Actually, before that, even Caesar. Hey, how's it going? I don't have any of your. Well, I guess everything that we're looking at has y'all stuff in it, because it's all y'all's models.
Pretty much.
We could maybe play the fights because it has all of the sets and stuff that he built and then destroyed.
All right. So yeah, we're gonna play the fight sizzle reel to talk about both the fights and the sets that you guys made, and then I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna come back.
Okay.
For you.
Thanks.
RWBY 3 spoilers? You're getting away with it until the music stopped.
We can actually talk about fights later, but I just wanted to play it so Caesar could talk about sets, biomes, and stuff. I don't want to skip Harley.
So yeah, so a big part of Volume 3 was the biomes that we did for all the fights, and a lot of that was actually you specifically, Caesar.
Yeah. If I could define Volume 3 in one word, it would be biomes.
Yeah. In fact, you did. So every morning we have at 10:30 we have a meeting called Scrum where we all get together and talk about what we're gonna do for the day. And somebody just clap for Scrum. That's cool. It was probably Koen. And for like I want to say like 3 months straight, you just like all you said was biomes. That's it.
Now, to make it clear, what would happen is someone would say, "Oh, well, I'm working on this part, episode 5. We're doing this. I need to have this thing. I'm working with this. I need a sidebar with this person," and then go to the next person. So it's like, "Oh, hey, you shut the
other people."
But it would be that, and then it would just go to Caesar, and you just hear biomes.
True.
So sometimes more biomes.
Sad, dejected face.
Still biomes.
No, I started out really excited. That was like the second or third week. I was
Yeah.
like, biomes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you want to talk about that a little bit? Like
And
how,
rocks.
what was that process like
Well,
designing 8 different sets that are in the same size?
the first time you explained biomes to us, we were like, "What?" But eventually we figured it out. It was fun because whenever you were starting to get kind of sick of modeling one, then you got a different one that was completely different. And even though it was grueling work, it still kind of renewed itself after a week or so because you had to start on something that had nothing to do with the previous biome. So that's what I liked about them. They were so completely different and diverse that I had a lot of fun doing them, but God, it was exhausting.
Yeah.
It was interesting working with him on the biomes because it was a very like immersive process. We would get a fight scene or something and have to have these characters like move around this set quite a lot, and then we'd be like, Caesar, like they're in the hill, like you need to get rid of the hill. Like so he was like remodeling as we were animating to accommodate like the needs of the fight scenes.
Yeah, I remember at the very beginning, I was like, "Hey, so because you guys would usually make proxy versions first,
Yes.
and it's like,
Yeah.
here's kind of like where the pirate ship's going to be, this kind of stuff." And I asked you guys like, hey, "Yeah, how final do these need to be before they go?" And you're like, "I feel like we could make some changes." And there's probably like the scenes you regret most of Volume 3.
Yes. I literally had to move mountains at some points.
Yeah.
So
Austin and I worked on the Funky Fight in 5, and I think they were asking like where. And Kim, shout out to Kim. Yeah, and I think someone early on was like, where is she gonna skate? And we're like, we don't fucking know.
Yeah.
So Austin had to.
So what happened is, Rachel, how much time did you have to do the storyboards for that? Yeah. So the whole Funky Fight. It was 2 days. So you had 2 days, and so you had these because you had 2 days worth, you had these incredibly vague shots of like, she's up on this, and then she jumps on this, and she goes on this. This will be cool. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. And then we go into the biome, and we're all like, we can't do any of this. So I go over to Caesar, and I'm like, hey, Caesar, this doesn't work the storyboards. And he's like, there's storyboards? And I'm like, yeah, there kind of are. And then we go to Kerry, he's like, figure it out, guys. And because you're doing everything else. And so between you, Rachel, me, Dustin, and Caesar, we just sat around going, I guess this could go here. I guess this could go here. Maybe this could go here. Okay, this works. And Caesar, you were so wonderful on that. Every time we're all like, what if we did this, this, and this? And you're like, sure.
We need a ramp. Can we move this broken bridge over here, Caesar?
Uh-huh.
I knew that would happen, so we made sure that we built stuff as modular as possible, so we could move pieces around as easily as we could. So fortunately, it all worked out.
Yeah, I think it seemed like there was a lot of it. Like I remember Harley when we were doing behind the scenes for the DVD and Blu-ray, you were talking about like for that second fight in episode 2, the water one, like they needed to get from the ship to the land, and you guys were like, we don't want them to be in water. Could you add like a string of small islands in between the ship in here?
Yeah, I think originally there's only like 1 or 2 islands, and by the end of it there was like 7 or something like that. Like, speaking, I just wanted to bring this up real quick because I just wanted to talk about this in public for a long time. Speaking of the behind the scenes things, how many have watched the behind the scene featurettes on the Blu-ray? Okay, cool, a couple people. Austin, when you I can't remember which fight, I think it was for the 9 fight. By the time they recorded you guys were in the middle of like crunch everything. I'm so sorry. You look like death in that thing. Like you don't look. I'm not saying like you look bad. But I'm just saying like you just look. You just like it literally cuts. Dustin's talking and you're just doing this.
But when we're built like Connor's putting together the discs and stuff, like the last night we're always up late testing. I think Kerry, me, and Paco were up late. It's like 4 a.m. and we've watched this fucking thing like 20 times. And then Kerry just pauses it on Austin's face, and we're like tired and delirious, and we just laugh for like 30 minutes. It's just Austin just like.
And the best part is like you didn't talk during that clip or anything. Like they just cut to you guys. Dustin's talking and then they cut away. So the entire time you're just.
If you guys can go back and watch that, you can see all the animators, like depending on which fight they're talking about or how late in production we are, like you can just see the decline.
It's the best thing ever. So speaking of fights, do you guys want to start talking? I mean, we played the sizzle reel now, but I mean, do you guys want to start talking about like, what do you guys want to talk about? The process for a little bit. I know we just want to open up to Q&A too at some point. So.
Could I give context?
Oh yes, go ahead. Yes.
Okay.
Rethink.
Yeah. Okay, so that was the PvP fight, and that was the fight that was probably one of the most important, because in almost all of season 1, almost all of season 1 and most of season 2, I exclusively animated Penny. Like I got almost all of her shots, and then Dustin had exclusively animated all of Pyrrha's big scenes, like every single big emotional scene. And so there was basically, it was this weird amalgamation where it's like, this is like, it's not mine, but it's like, this is my character, and then this is Dustin's, and this is his character, and we have and it's both of ours, and we've just been hitting every single fight, and it's just going and going and going. And this would have been the part where we would have taken a break, but it's like, but this is literally the part where we kill one of my characters and we destroy yours. We have to do it. We literally have to do it. And so we do it. And on this is the only fight that at the end of it, instead of being excited, we're just like, and then what happens is you guys, which you, Gray, Koen, you're all working, you're all doing all sorts of stuff. You go and you look at it, and you know that we just came in there kind of with like a bit of a whimper, and you're like, guys, we need to make it a little bit better. Like, it's like you guys need to do better. And I look at it for the first time with fresh eyes, and Dustin looks at fresh eyes, and we're all like, oh crap.
What the fuck have we done?
What is this? This is garbage. And and you guys are all like, well, what's a way we can fix this? And the solution that I had, because everyone is busy. This was the holidays. The literal solution I had was, I'm gonna come in on Christmas night. And they're all like, no, don't do that. I'm like, that's literally the only time I can do that. And so if you actually watch when Bernie and Ashley and their kids, when they play laser tag, there's a video of that. It's like an RT Life. Yeah. They'll be going around, and there's just one monitor on. And that's just me staying up all night going, it's going to be better. It's going to be better. It's going to be better. And then the next week, we filmed the behind the scenes for that. And I was just a lifeless husk.
Yeah. The other thing that... the other thing that actually really saved that fight was Joe's cameras.
Yeah.
And Yeah, it looks so much better once the sound and cameras are
Rachel
done.
and like, the whole team helped with that sequence.
They all fix that mess.
I think Joe's going to kill you. He's gonna take the mic and he's gonna whack you on the head with it.
One more person on the list.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you brought that up too. I think like it's one thing that's true with fight scenes, one and dialogue scenes is like they really come together in like the last 3 days. Like until that, everything's like, oh yeah, I know this shot's broken. I know this shot's broken. This shot's missing a thing. This shot's broken. This shot's broken. And then like I think there's this unspoken thing where it's like everybody believes in everybody, but we're all looking at the thing. It's like, okay, like no, we're gonna get there. We can do this. And then the date happens. It's like, no, we totally got this. Like it totally worked out. Yeah.
Yeah, for the animators, it's usually not when we're actually done with it because we're just hate. But it's usually once we
just hate.
yeah. So it's usually once we finally see it after Joe's touched it and once the sound's in there and because like the sound makes all the contacts and stuff work. So like when you see it with that, then you're like, oh yeah, we did all right. Okay.
What was the fight in 2 like? I know that was a big one for you.
Most stressful time
Yes.
of my life. I'm not one of the key like fight animators they go to. Like I work on the emotional scenes a lot more, but it was definitely a really creative challenge because the emotional scenes, the layout department really sets them up, and like the mocap and the cameras are there, and like I just have to worry about bringing these characters to life. I mean, it's certainly still a lot of work, but with the fights, there's so much that is nebulous, and you have to create it. So um, like when I got that pirate scene, and Joel ended up touching it too at the end to really like sell it because he's a master at that. But I was like, I don't know what to do with this. I just had this chunk of mocap, and there was like a beam from the pirate ship, and I had to somehow like get them around that beam.
Yeah.
And like I went to Daniel Fabello actually, and I was like,
Really?
how do you do a fight? He's like, you have to watch these things, and he sent me to like all these action films like Furious 5, and I can't even remember
It's
the other
probably
ones.
Furious 6 and Furious 7. It's all the Fast and Furious movies.
I was like, really? And
yeah.
yeah, but he was like, you just, you can make these cuts, and like you can feel the hits by doing this, and I'm like, okay. So I just went in and I like took this random information and I just like cut this mocap together, and actually it was like pretty cool. But then I don't know, it was cleaning. It's
No,
crazy.
it worked out really well.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk more about performance stuff then? Since
I mean, we'll talk about anything.
We have a
but
video,
yeah,
yeah, actually, to play too.
Oh, let's play the video. Are we done with fights though? Because you guys already played that.
This is just it's
I
loosey
had a
goosey.
schedule, guys.
Nah.
Harley,
No.
our point was to ruin your schedule.
Yeah.
Did a great job.
Yeah. So this is it's actually a pretty long video, so I think if you guys want to either talk over this or we might just like cut it short depending on how you guys want to do it. But I know this first scene was actually a pretty important scene for RWBY Volume 3 if you want to talk about this.
Okay. Yeah, we can talk through it. Yes. So emotional scenes. I mean, if you take the large amount of time that is in the volume, a lot of it's like characters talking. You're building the relationships between these characters so that when you see the fights, they matter. Because you can watch action all day and it gets a little mind numbing after a while. But if you care about the plight of these characters, then you should appreciate the emotional scenes.
No, I feel like this was a really big scene for us for Volume 3 because this was basically like the first dialogue scene that went through.
That's right.
And you spent a lot of time just working on like new styles for character performance and like really trying to refine what we've been working on for the last like 2 years.
Yeah, so with this volume, we really wanted to push the style of RWBY and like bring it together into something cohesive that all the animators could emulate. So I was able to jump onto the project a little before actual production started and experiment with how these characters were going to move. Like, do we want to clean up mocap? Do we want to keyframe it? Do we want to just like really take most of the mocap out and go pose to pose? So I did a couple tests for the initial scene with RWBY talking, and we kind of just realized that we kind of had to wing it. We had to do a blend of mocap and pose to pose, but we also
this kingdom handles its bureaucracy. That is not why I.
we also we tried some new things. Like we started to take Y or X rotation out of things. Like that kind of takes away the 3D feel when things can't rotate like in front of the camera.
I think that's been a struggle over the show or a struggle and a challenge in a good way is that we're a 3D show trying to emulate a 2D show.
Yeah.
We essentially have too much that we can do.
Right.
The reason that you don't see in 2D shows, the reason you don't see them turning head like this all the time. Because it's really hard to draw. Yeah, it's easy to do in 3D, and we were doing it, and we realized like, well, if we're trying to be like a 2D show, we need to not do that. They're either looking profile, or they're looking straight ahead, or they're looking 3/4. Like we have to pick one and try and stick with it.
Right.
Which is hard to mocap for because you don't normally do that. It's super stiff feeling to just like, I'm doing this now. Now I'm doing this now.
We actually tried that for a second in mocap. Is we actually tried to mocap in like a style, and we got that mocap through, and it just looked like a dirty bug.
Oh yeah,
it was bad.
we tried to. I wish we had reference of this, because we would do things that RWBY would do, like, hi guys, how's it going? And it would look completely fake. So we realized we had to actually act things out like normal, and then take the poses from there.
Yeah, so I mean, on like a show like RWBY, where you guys you want all of that mocap, you want the subtle breathing, you want like the little head turns and stuff like that. We would mocap that performance, and then you guys would just strip it all out on RWBY instead. Yeah.
And then once you add in the hair dynamics and the facial performance, it really sells it. Like sometimes you'll have a piece of animation and you're like, oh, it's still terrible, and like you run out of time. So then you really focus on the facial performance, because that's where the audience's eyes are, and getting the hair to and the cloth to move around, and it kind of sells the rest of it. It gets the point across.
Another major difference with this season was that with the updates that we had to our motion capture system, we were actually able to perform entire scenes and actually have Kerry there to direct the performances. So I think that really helped in having our performances.
And we actually had girls on the team.
Yes.
Woo! Shout out to them if they're in the crowd. I see two.
That was actually a huge difference. Yeah, it was I remember. So Volume 1, we tried to storyboard as much as we could. Volume 2, we ran out of storyboarding time. We didn't have a storyboard layer department. We ran out of storyboard time. At one point, Gray and I were just shot listing every scene, so we would just go like, it's a close up of RWBY now. It's a over the shoulder on Weiss now. Like we would just do that. At one point, we couldn't even do storyboards anymore. We just had the text up on the screen for you guys.
Yeah, the animatics we started getting would just be black with red text that would say mid shot of RWBY. And then we would just have to match that timing.
Yeah, so that's not the ideal situation at all. And now it's amazing. So because of that, we actually every dialogue scene in this season, we all got together, we mocapped it, we had like a cohesive performance between people. I'm gonna burp. I appreciate it. And I feel like that added a lot to him and made it a lot more consistent across the board, and also just better. I do feel so. What do you guys want to talk about next? We have one RWBY 4 thing to show you guys, and then we're gonna go to Q&A. It sounds like
there is one more RWBY 3 thing.
Oh, there is one more RWBY 3 thing. Here's what we're gonna do. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna cut the stream real quick, and then we're gonna play this RWBY 4 thing, and then we'll bring it back, do the bloopers, because that will be a great lead in. Yeah. I spoiled it.
So I was actually gonna say maybe I'll ask it after this. But do you have anything to say about the differences? Because we're in a new software now. Do you have anything to say about the differences you've had animating in Maya as opposed to what were you previously using?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. Maya makes things a lot easier in terms of animation now, but the other thing is because we have this great tool now, we now have to set the bar even higher. So that's been like, and the other thing, what was really fulfilling about this trailer was just the challenge of like figuring out how RWBY now works in Maya. Like we had to like completely like refigure out, how does the pipeline work, and how do we animate a fight in RWBY and Maya.
Yeah, it's definitely something we're still learning, but I mean, like, it's one of those things. I know you guys are hating me for saying this, but I mean, like, there's pros and cons to every piece of software. I think we wanted to switch to this one just for scaling purposes. That was like the biggest thing. But it's been really cool to kind of like develop this new kind of pipeline, and I'm really excited for what you guys are gonna be able to do. It's looking really good, guys. Sorry, I'm gonna be sappy. Okay, let's show this thing now.
So animation is 90% mistakes and 10% of getting things right. This is part of that 90%.
Steel. Sheet.
Well, a giant monster's currently frozen on top of Beacon Tower.
Please leave the Coliseum and they come in orderly fashion.
I never wanted this. I wanted equality. I wanted peace.
So you're existing in this world. You were such tremendous. And here I thought your dark-haired friend was the emo one.
Now let's see who our first match will be.
Get to the city. We need to get this boy to a hospital. It's been precisely 1 minute now.
I feel like we never see I had someone very dear to me change. It wasn't in an instant, it was gradual.
And here I thought your dark-haired friend was the emo one.
Halt! I'm not mine.
You're special, Ruby. Not in the daddy loves his special angel kind of way. You're special the same way your mom was.
That's somebody's headband falling off in mocap.
It's not unusual to be alone.
This is the part where the stream gets taken down.
It's not
Just gonna.
unusual to
All right.
So yeah, animation is horrifying.
Yeah, so that was a combination of Stray Keys scaling things and moving things out of the way, and then also some of the animators going insane during production.
There's some stuff missing that we used to use Kerry's head if we didn't have an asset. So I don't know why they didn't make him in there. Austin did it first.
I don't know where they went.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. An explanation on Gray's face on Neon Cat is for the longest time we actually had not cast Neon Cat, and usually if there's not a person that we've cast, 99% of the time it is Gray. It just so happened that we needed a girl, and so for the entire time, for the entire episode 5 fight, it was just Gray as this sexy little girl going around taunting you, and it drove you a little mad, I'd say.
Yes.
Yeah. We got so used to hearing Gray as that voice that then when we actually had the other voice, it was kind of like off-putting for the people who worked on it so much because we got so used to Gray being Neon Cat.
I'm actually trying to pull up another video real quick from Joel. But why don't we open up for Q&A? How's that sound?
It's something you sent me a little bit ago.
How do you want to do line or you want to just call on people?
We should. Is there a spare mic that we can use for the Twitch stream? Oh, okay. Yeah, it's probably that one. So why don't we put that one on that stand right there, and we can form a nice orderly line, or maybe just I don't know what's better. Okay, let's just do a line. Fuck it.
That way we don't have to have a guardian like running around.
Can't say no if it's already happened.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so not being too used to animation for these big projects, what are your hours like usually daily?
8-hour days every day. It's fine. It's just 8-hour days.
How many days do you go without sleeping?
Just 8-hour days. Yeah.
It's just 8 hours.
Oh, just 8 hours. Yeah. 40 hours a week.
Animation is easy. It's great.
We are very healthy about it.
Does someone want to give the real answer here, Joel? I'll let you take that one.
He's got the Austin stare.
How many hours a day did you work on the
I would say minimum probably anywhere between 14 and 16-hour days for 4 weeks straight. Yeah, some of it. I lost track of time, okay?
But that's not that's not always the case.
Yeah, as a responsible representative up here, that's not always the case. The fight scenes tend to, because we want to put so much extra into them, they tend to be the crunchiest of everything. I would say, especially for Volume 3, like the dialogue scenes actually went pretty smoothly for the most part.
Unlike not crazy crunches, like average probably is like 10 hours. Like an average day in production is 10 hours, and that doesn't necessarily include lunch.
And do you also bring anything home from the office to work on? Or
like people?
It's hard.
I mean, sometimes I've stolen some snacks, but like, deal.
We all work off of all of our assets are referenced into our files, so we have like a really heavy network that is like kind of difficult to bring home. Like programmers and production people can work at home because it's all text based and web based, but like with assets and environments and textures and lighting, like it's really hard. It can be done, but it's not easy.
For the trailer, I was doing some homework for the gorilla sequences. I really wanted to kind of get into the mind of the gorillas, so I actually brought something from the office today. So while you guys are continuing doing your thing, I'm gonna do a thing.
Yeah. While he's setting up, I did try to have a setup where I had my software at home and I got like normal stuff to do animation. But you go home and then you're ready to work and you're like, man, animation's dumb. And this is I don't know if you know this, but Rooster Teeth actually gets some people we get Goodwill people also to work with us.
So I told this story on the second RWBY 4 panel, but we knew. We had assigned Joel to the trailer. We knew he was going to do it, and he knew that there's going to be a grill in it. So he went to I don't know what store and bought Amazon. Okay, it's at least Amazon, and bought brand new kid crutches. He tried to get used ones. So this is how we did actually a lot of the mocap for the gorilla, which I actually think is pretty creative. He's going to pick stuff out of my hair again. Yeah, notice I said the word again there. All right, next question. Thank you.
He's so proud of him.
He is.
He's just you gotta slide it in.
Maybe later.
My question is with all these really awesome animation sequences, and even for the more talking, emotional sequences, what is the usual render time? Because like for me, like rendering something at like 1,000 frames, like on my computer, it takes like 4 hours to complete.
Maybe I don't know.
Taco, you may know.
I mean, do you remember any of the RWBY 2 stats? I have one from RWBY Volume 3, but do you remember any of the RWBY 2 stats? Was it 100?
100 machine years?
Yeah, so to render RWBY Volume 3, it took 100 machine years. So what that means is if we were only using one machine, thank God we're not, it would have taken 100 years to render RWBY Volume 3. Thankfully, we have like 100 computers doing it, so cut it down a lot. We actually have more actually at this point. But the other thing that happened with the RWBY Volume 4 trailer is so it also depends on if you're using CPU or GPU. CPU definitely takes a lot longer. We switched over to doing GPU stuff now, so a frame that would have taken like 45 minutes to an hour to render for the background now only takes like 5 minutes. So Redshift is what we use now. It's pretty great. Characters usually go a lot quicker because they're more of just like a default shader or material setup. We actually melted together cables rendering Ruby Volume 4. We had set up some new computers to try and like help us get it going, and we just let them go full power for like 3 days, and cables literally fused together, and we had to like we had to figure things out. So it can take time. Yeah, that's the tricky problem with only like just working by yourself is like you've got to actually be able to get all those renders out overnight. Yeah.
The chapter, I think 5 scene when they were.
You want a microphone?
The chapter 5, or it was either 5 or 6 when they were in the vault. 6. Those shots, I think Jeff was quoting, took about anywhere between 45 minutes to like an hour and a half to render per frame.
And half of the reason that it took that long was because of those little fire torches that were up top. There were like 4 intersecting alpha cards, and then there was like 50 of them. And the software just went, no, I'm gonna take forever to do that now. So we actually simplified it, and it took less time eventually. But that was also one thing that like really hurt us for a while. Yeah.
Oh, we fucked reflections.
Thank you.
Jump.
You can slide it down.
You can take it out.
Yeah.
There we go.
So in terms of when the next trailers are coming out, when do you think they're coming out?
Soon.
Okay.
Before RWBY 4 comes out. So earlier than October 22nd. Yeah. October 21st.
Are there going to be any new characters? Like any new weapons or
In Volume 4? Absolutely not. Of course. Of course. Yeah, I don't want to get into too much story stuff, but I mean, like, the characters are out in the world, so if they didn't see anybody, it'd be kind of weird, wouldn't it? Exactly. Yeah. So there's a gorilla. You met him. What did you guys name him? Bagel.
Hey, so I kind of had a question for everything from concept to concept art to fight scenes. Where do you guys, besides the few instances you already gave, where do you guys draw most of your inspiration for the different stuff? Does it really just depend on the situation, or?
I think we watch a lot of anime.
Lots. There's actually a website that I've become kind of like addicted to. It's called sakuga.yishi.org, and no. Here I'll actually write it down. But yeah, you can also just you can Google it, Maine. I can't do those references now. Okay. That's where I get a lot of reference from, and that's where I think a lot of other people. I don't know, where do you go?
Yeah, that's it. That they have. It's basically just a compilation of like all the best full fights.
Sakuga is really cool Japanese animation. Like when you're watching Naruto, okay? You're watching Naruto, and yeah. First, good question. Why, Kim? And you're watching it, and it's just sort of like. And then 15 minutes later, there's a 30-second clip where people are just. and then it stops. The reason why it stops is because that one chunk took like $20,000 to do, and the whole rest of it took $20,000 to do. So anyway, all the good chunks, it's all on this website by some nerd that has painstakingly cut out every single one of every single anime, and I love them. What about you guys? Anything?
Rachel's definitely our go-to for anime. So yeah, whenever we're bored and stuff out, she's like, "Oh, I know exactly where I can go reference to get that." It's like, yeah, that's awesome. Like,
which shoujo show are we gonna get it from now?
Well, how am I supposed to say that?
Whatever. In the library of AMVs. Yeah. We're just like texting AMVs to the point and saying, "Have you seen this Cowboy Bebop one?" Did I answer your question? Thanks.
Okay, alright. So, I don't know a lot about animation, but one of the things that impressed me the most about the Volume 4 trailer was just the improved lighting effects on all the character models. Like, you could see the shadow of Ruby's hair over her face. That was so incredible to see. So I guess my question is the addition of those, vastly improved lighting effects, is that something that's a result of the changeover in software mostly, or?
It's a bunch of things. Caesar, you can probably talk about this too. The lighting on the models and stuff. I mean, like, you guys have had to put a lot of effort. You're representing Tim right now too, who had to deal with this stuff so much. It's a little bit of both. We tried to do it in our previous software. We tried really hard for Volume 3. We actually I think I actually still feel bad because I was really trying to push for it, and I think it slowed down production a couple weeks, and probably hurt everybody a little bit just in terms of like time crunch. Then the smoothing happened, which I'll talk about in a second. But so it's definitely possible to do. It's become a lot easier for us to do, which is something that we're really excited about. We're still learning. Honestly, when you guys see that, the reason we're not putting up the trailer yet is because there's still some aspects of it that we want to go back and tweak. So I mean, all that stuff's going to be there, but we're already rethinking our approach to it and continue to enhance that. It's also been a big thing for modeling too. Is like we spent a lot of time with you guys. Like, we're having to build sets slightly differently now, and we're having to build characters slightly differently now, and it's becoming like it's a definite struggle, but in a good way. Like, it's fun and it's challenging to do because it's something that we've wanted to do since the very beginning. We just didn't have time. Like, we wanted to do this for Volume 1, and we just didn't have time to do it. And we finally have the team size and the time to try and actually get it in. Does that kind of answer your question?
Oh, absolutely.
Great. Okay, cool.
Hello.
Hi.
Two statements and a question. First statement, I tip my hat to you guys for a kick-ass job for the trailers and everything else you made. Second, I want to give a shout out to, he's not here for reasons we all know, the granddaddy of RWBY, Mr. Monsium. And the question I have is that whenever you guys walk around RTX and you see all the cosplayers doing all the RWBY stuff and you see the effort that people put in the costumes, do you ever sit down in the back of your chair and you think to yourself, we made that? Do you ever sense a pride? You feel proud of yourself when you see that walking across these convention centers?
I mean, absolutely, yeah. It's one of the coolest things ever. I remember last year at RTX we showed one of like the new teams that were in episode 1, and before the con was over, we had 4 people cosplaying as them already. So they were in a foreign city. They were in Austin, not in their home, and they figured out how to make those 4 costumes like from the get go. Or they might live here. I don't think they live here. But it's really crazy, man. Like, I know Erin Wynn, one of our concept artists, she helped design that team, and recently, like, been seeing like a Reese cosplayer around, and she was like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, I drew that person, and now it's real.
Yeah, thank you.
Give it up for that guy, everybody.
Hello. Hey. So I noticed that with season 3, you guys did a phenomenal job of incorporating more facial animations, just in terms of reactions for different scenes. I was wondering, when it comes to the animation portion of that, since it was so new to you guys, did you guys do anything special to try and figure out how that would work? Did you like try and make those facial reactions in a mirror? Did you try to do that in conversation with one another?
We utilize video reference a lot, and try and honestly, video reference does it all. Like, you can draw inspiration from movies and like watch really expressive actors who do actually like act for a living, but the easiest thing that you can do is just film yourself acting something out, or film one of your friends if you think that they could do a better job, and really take note of all the subtlety that happens. It's just observation, really, and like, you'll know when you have a good performance because it'll feel right.
I wasn't too sure if you just showed spoilers to Miles and got his reaction from them.
Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah.
A lot.
Another thing that happened is this started in RWBY 13 with Miles. This is something that he wanted, and it worked so amazingly well. We had to have it for RWBY 3. We go back to, we upgraded our motion capture equipment, and now before there can only be one person, but now there were multiple people. And the reason why this is awesome is, beforehand, if you look at RWBY 2, there's going to be a scene where all of Team RWBY, all of Team Juniper, and Team Sun, and Oobleck is there. Every single one of those persons acted by me because it was my scene. And you're not a good actor. I'm not a good actor. We're not professional actors. But he might actually be a pretty good actor. He looks like I can see it. Anyway, sorry. That's getting to the point. We got to finally have like people being there, and they can be an actor, and then the director can be there, and he watches the whole thing, and he can say, "Could you do this more? Can you react to this person more? Can you do this?" And when you're talking to people and you're moving, you're acting, and there's people around you, you just get better performances. And we could get real people to do really good. To do really good performances, and as an animator that just makes us better because we have real scenes to pull upon. And so a lot of that was just we had real emotions as opposed to literally you standing in a closet going like and we're like this, okay, now we stand over here, I'm gonna be Ruby. Oh really, I didn't know that, that's very interesting. I like a fucking crazy person.
Paco, who also runs our motion capture station, he also takes GoPro footage of every single performance that we do, so we have that to draw upon as well as far as facial, finger gestures, and everything.
Probably,
I don't know if. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it's probably worth mentioning too. Like, not that much stuff actually changed on the rig from 2 to 3, but we probably all just got a little bit better at animation. Like, the more, hopefully, like doing it more and more, you just get better, and all those other things. It all adds together, I think, just for a better performance.
Yeah, I think this is also kind of what Austin was saying, and I don't know if you actually just said this, but it's like yeah,
like he's got a book on the table, like he's just been reading.
Yeah, I've been reading. Sorry, it's really involved. It's like I did theater in high school, and they used to just like really hit home, like acting is reacting, and I think just having the people in the space like makes all the difference. But
And in terms of like time, like having layout, like put things together for us, like before you'd have a scene and you would do the mocap performance of every single character by yourself, and you'd have to like go find Kerry and be like, is this what you want? And be like, okay, we'll try it this way, and you'd lay everything out, and like you'd be 3 days in and you haven't even started real animation yet, so you didn't really have time to like focus on the details. So now we have that department, so we can spend the time that is needed to bring these characters to life.
That's partly why I went to layout, so I didn't have to put the mocap suit on anymore.
Thank you so much. I can't wait for season 4.
Thanks, man.
Well, hello.
Nice.
I just wanted to ask, because I'm starting to get into my own animation stuff. Whenever you're doing a fight scene and there's a bunch of like somebody punches a rock wall and there's a bunch of shattered pieces everywhere, how do you guys do the destruction? Like, is it mostly simulated or is it keyframed? I'm looking at Caesar now.
Hi, my name's Caesar, and I'm the wrecking ball for all of RWBY. We mostly use a plugin for Maya called Pull Down It, and it makes all kinds of awesome breaks in geometry, and it does it really fast and in a way that it also not only does it break it, but it also like closes up any open faces that you may have. And it really facilitates having to go, making every cut yourself, which is what we used to do before, and it was a giant pain in the ass.
Yeah, and if you're in Max, there's a plugin called Rayfire that does kind of the same thing. But Caesar actually, it was him. There's another funny story of Taylor, but with Caesar, there's all these sets because I mean you've basically been working in Maya the whole time because that's where we model everything anyways. And there were so many sets that Caesar, you built Osmond's office back during like volume 1, like he built it that long ago, and in volume 3 we just went to him and said, now destroy it. So he had the pleasure of like just destroying all these sets that he made years ago.
My beloved chair.
Yeah, it was a nice chair, and now it's gone.
What software are you using right now? Okay, so as that's how we made the pieces to break apart. As for actually like animating it, so we were using Poser, and Poser actually has a very good it's rigid, it's bullet, but it had the rigid body physics where we just sort of like make a thing and we just keep redoing the what's the sim? We keep redoing the sim until it looks like something that we like, and then sometimes we will just move it by hand. So in Maya, there's good rigid body physics, but like literally, if it's just not good enough, do it again, or then just do it again by hand.
And then you actually did for the Volume 4 trailer. There's the part where she crashes down,
Yeah, and then when she breaks through the glass window, yeah, I mean we can run rigid bodies, but a lot of times we still have to go back and kind of keyframe a few things here and there. Like on the glass break, there was always like a few pieces that were just like spinning out of control, or like one would go left and then all of a sudden it would like just come back right for some reason, and then you have to go in there and find that piece. And I'm like, okay, don't do that.
When Ruby does crash into that crater, it's like there's the ground, and then you have a crater asset, which is like there's a solid piece of geo that represents the ground that's like been disturbed, and then there's also a bunch of chunks of rock, and the texture kind of blends that. So when she hits the ground over one frame, the ground comes up, and then over like two frames, the rocks appear, and you don't really notice that it just like switches because it's the impact. And then you can take the rocks and you can animate them all kind of like bouncing, and then you offset that bounce, and then it actually starts to look kind of real.
Yeah, one thing to think about there too is like chances are, like if you're doing like let's say you're doing like a crash through the wall, if you're just staring at that crash through the wall at multiple angles, it's probably not going to look good, but that's okay because once you add the smoke in, you get the animation in, there's a big music hit there, like it all kind of sells it together. So I mean, I wouldn't worry too much about getting like that effect working like 100% from every angle unless you're going to use it all the time, because it's like it really is like it's a piece of the whole puzzle. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Film in general, animation, it's all just like we're just like cheating things to make it work.
All right, thank you guys.
Hello. Hey. So yesterday at the 3D model panel, they mentioned an unused anti-gravity biome for the stadium. So but that was cut for a complex animating thing. So I was wondering, what was the most complex or annoying thing to animate that went to the show, and the most complex and annoying thing that had to get cut for reasons?
Well, yeah. I would say the good thing is that in general, if something is going to be complex and we decide like we don't animate it first and then decide like, oh, that's not working partway through. Like usually we don't start something if like we don't have time to do it. So I mean that's a good thing. Except something that Austin wants to talk about. There's one shot. Which one was it?
Okay, so in the 2A fight, was the 2A fight? In the 2A fight, I knew I was gonna get it, and I knew I was gonna get Nora, and I was gonna get Nora just gonna smash a hammer, and I had all these cool ideas. I got some stuff from Fully Cooley. I had these effects cards. I made the coolest hammer hit I possibly could. It was awesome. Then when we got the fight and we had it all cut up, actually Dustin had that shot. And so Dustin started working on that shot, and he made a really cool Nora doing this exact hammer hit. It was awesome. Then while Dustin was working on some stuff, then Joel Joel went and he was all like, oh, at the end she has to hit with a hammer. And so he, without seeing my shot, without seeing his shot, does the shot again. And that's the shot that is in there. So there are two just awesome Nora hit hammer shots knocking people away that you'll never see. His looks good. It's good. But yeah, that. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Lightning round. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Lightning round.
So first of all, I want to thank you all for all your hard work on the RWBY series. It's an amazing series. On average, how big were your file sizes for all of the assets?
You guys can probably talk about this a little bit more. It also depends on like now it's like pre or post reference, but I mean like some of the files like they're like getting up to like almost like 1.5 gigs, right, per file. And then I also know like especially when it came to like render time or once it got to you guys for final camera, some shots take like 45 minutes just to open. So I mean like we'd be like, all right, cool, we got all these computers ready to render, let's do this. Okay, well it's opening now. So they would actually just start like they would take like 10 computers and just open on each computer and let them go. So they would just be like working on multiple computers at once, trying to just like keep pushing things through. So I mean, they're pretty big. There's if you're using software that has referencing, usually the file size isn't too big until you get to render. Then you import in all the references so they don't change while you're rendering. And then that's when the file size gets really big and starts chugging because all those assets are now inside the file. Yeah.
In animation, sorry, I'll say real quick. In animation, the way you manage that is you create display layers. You can turn off the references that you're not using, and you create display layers. And on those display layers, if you have to see these objects, you can make them untextured. or so that they just don't, the CPU is not trying to read the textures.
Yeah, for the Ruby 3 stuff, especially with all the crowd shots,
Yeah.
we purposely left crowds in the layout department. So we had one animator that his job was to fill scenes with crowds, but it was after all the other animation was done because we knew those scenes would just get so heavy, and we just kept putting more and more and more people into those. Yeah.
If you had to estimate how much damage was done in the Ruby universe, like how many dollars?
A lot.
worth of damage?
Over 9,000 is a good answer. 9,000 what? I don't know. Some random value.
One more. Do you think we could
Quick,
expect
lightning
the bloopers in any like separate DVD release? Because I'm not sure.
That? I think that might be a panel exclusive. RWBY sponsor. First in.
Lightning round, quick.
I noticed that there was a big jump in animation between Volume 3 and what we've seen for Volume 4. I was just wondering what was all involved into making the animation better between what was done in 3 and what was done in 4.
That's a big question.
No, I mean, for the most part, again, part of it was a software change. Maya allows us to do things easier than Poser can, and again, a lot of it was just more time and prep for it as well.
Cool. All right, lightning round. 2 questions. We do this.
All right. So the only question I have for you guys, since you've all been working on RWBY so long, is there anything that you would say has been your biggest contribution, or something that was your favorite to work on for the show?
What do you do, Dustin?
Some of the earlier Jean and Pierre stuff, I'm sure it looks bad now if I go back and watch it. I refuse to, but that was good. And fight scenes in 3.
I cut Yang's arm off.
So did I.
I got to kill Torchwick.
Anything with Yatsu in it? The Yatsu fight, I wanted Yatsu to win that fight, but didn't happen.
I think the part in episode 7 of the season, right before the big Amber fight, where it's just like her riding the horse, and that was a lot of fun to put together and just like create a mood that was like pretty different from the rest of the show. I think I like that.
Biomes.
I'm the first person who got to play with Zwei and like really have fun with that character, so that was awesome.
Thank you. Great question.
I wanted to ask a little bit about the new program. I know in the previous program there were some issues with character models, like not being able to remove the ears from like Fauna's characters that have 2 ears. So I wanted to ask how the new program affects designing character models, especially in terms of facial diversity and body diversity.
I'll let you know as soon as we get more into it. We're still so early in. There's definitely one of the bigger differences is just like the way the rigs work, which is those are all the things that those things that you're talking about is like the characters had to be kind of similar for that reason. So that's stuff we're still exploring, but I mean like it's possibilities have been opened up a lot more for some like new and different things. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. All right. That was really awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming out. You're the best. Wait, I have one more thing to show you guys. Can you turn off the stream?